Hello there! I'm Jam, and I'm happy to see that you're here. Though I am assuming most of the people watching this video clicked on it because they're thinking, what the hell, sure, when they read the title. The rest of you might just want a video essay to play in the background while doing your chores, which, hey, can't knock ya, so I'm not gonna waste your time with anything I don't have to. This is a bit of a strange video topic to write about, but I guess it's something very important to me. I mean, I'm a huge Nerdcore fan, and I want to be academic on a good day. Plus, for how prevalent it is on YouTube, I've never seen many people talk formally about it. At least without being, like, assholes. I'm also trying not to be an asshole, so if you don't agree with anything I said here, feel free to yell at me in the comments. This was literally my Spotify Wrapped last year, you cannot hurt me. This was also not the video I was planning on making as my first video of the new year, but here we are. The creative muses sure are bitches sometimes. So, here's an abstract. What is nerdcore? What is musical authenticity? And how do those two things connect? Now, before we dive too deeper into this, let me do a quick Q&A about my music analysis credentials. Do I know what I'm talking about when it comes to music theory? A little bit. Do I have any formal background in musical theory or criticism? Little to none. Was I a band kid? Yes. Is that helpful to this debate? No. Am I emotionally invested in this? Way too much. Have JT Music and the Stupendium consistently been my top artists for the past 7 years on music streaming platforms, and did I listen to the fine print every day for 4 months before clocking in at my retail job because it gave me the strength to keep slaving away under the systems of capitalism? I defer the question. On a serious, legal note, all sources I use for this video will be cited either in the description or on an outside doc, along with any music I mentioned. Also, should make it clear, I am not dissing any artists or their fans in this video. I don't ever want to knock anyone for their music tastes, unless they're a Drake fan, but I'm Canadian, so I'm allowed to make fun of him. So with that out of the way, let's begin. Authenticity in music has literally been a debate in the industry since time immemorial, and there's plenty of different definitions about what it entails. At its core, authenticity is the idea that something is genuine or real to its perceived what the hell? Authenticity is the idea that something is genuine or real to its perceived appearance. So it's easy to see that when it comes to nerdcore and authenticity, these debates get messy. That's because nerdcore, if you clicked on this video somehow not knowing what it was, is music based on or inspired by pre-existing media. Typically, nerdcore is written by fans of a piece of media, qualifying them as fan songs, which is in the same realm of fandom content like fan art or fanfiction. Wow, who could have guessed that? But wait, by this metric, The Stupendium, a famous and self-described nerdcore artist, wrote the song The Vending Machine of Love as the main theme for the game Only Cans. But despite being officially written for the game rather than as a piece of fan content, it's still generally considered to be nerdcore. The Living Tombstone made two of the most The Living Tombstone made two of the most popular Five Nights at Freddy's fan songs, which were then included in the first and second movie during the end credits. Are those still nerdcore songs, or are they just official FNAF songs now? Or here's a more mainstream example. The Wicked movies take their songs from the musical they are based on, but the second movie includes 2 original songs. If a fan of the musical wrote their own song to be included in their own theoretical musical, that would likely be classified as nerdcore. However, are those 2 new songs classified as nerdcore as they are based off pre-existing media? Or, because those 2 songs were officially written for the movie, do they not count? But then again, the Wicked movies are based on a musical, which was based on a book, which was based on a film, which is based off a different book series, which is based off a musical adaptation, which was based on one different original book. Why am I even talking about this again? I don't even fucking like the stupid. So maybe defining nerdcore is a bit harder than I thought it was going to be. Okay, well, to define it, we should probably look at how it came to be. Nowadays, when you hear the term nerdcore, you're usually going to think of artists like the Living Tombstone, or CG5, or the Stupendium, or the entire brony rap subculture, or 1001 other artists. Nerdcore, too, is typically associated with internet fandom culture and media. Think of media that was either extremely popular in the 2010s, and/or had a history of being stereotypically geeky or uncool. For example, fandoms like My Little Pony, Undertale, and Five Nights at Freddy's have some of the most popular nerdcore songs associated with them. However, nerdcore isn't a new term. It was actually first coined into the year 2000 by the artist MC Frontalot, with his song Nerdcore Rap. As such, nerdcore is typically defined as a genre of hip-hop music characterized by subject matter considered of interest to nerds and geeks. Thanks, Wikipedia. That is very broad. There's also geek or nerd rock, which is exactly what it sounds like. Rock music with nerdy subject matters. It's not typically a term much used in internet fandoms, but it does have some related subgenres. like truck. That's Time Lord rock, if you're curious. As well, some geek rock artists say that while their music does deal with traditionally geek subjects, they consider geek to now be a slang term for anyone very passionate about something. So, as the artist Kyle Stevens stated, to us now, what we consider or genre of nerd or geek rock means anything we are really passionate about, whether that be a traditionally geeky subject matter or a song about how we're really into tacos. In essence, they're love songs directed to whatever we're really passionate about. However, as I said, these definitions are broad and somehow still really particular at the same time, as they are still constrained to terms like hip-hop or rock. Obviously, nerdcore now isn't defined by these musical genres as heavily as they used to be, which is why I've been using nerdcore as the main term for this video, even when discussing non-hip-hop nerdy songs. Plus, by these definitions, nerdcore can pretty much include any music that talks about nerd or geek topics. Like, a song about being a nerd like White and Nerdy by Weird Al Yankovic could be nerdcore, even if it isn't about a particular piece of media, like, for example, Discord by The Living Tombstone being about My Little Pony. Nerdcore also overlapped very heavily with musical parodies in the early days, though nowadays you see less and less of that. Kind of a shame, but at least it means I don't need to hear "Oh, fuck, everyone hide." But in all seriousness, nerdcore has moved away from these definitions for the most part. Nowadays, nerdcore songs are usually about a particular piece of media rather than broad nerd topics. It's also much more common to see original compositions rather than parodies. However, I believe the best definition of nerdcore we can make is based on that Kyle Stevens quote I pulled earlier. This means that nerdcore is a genre of music that is characterized by its devotion to its subject matter through nostalgia, interest, passion, and/or fandom culture. This means music inspired by other pieces of non-music media, or music being about this non-music media. This definition then also includes fan songs, songs that actively talk about or engage with a piece of outside media and what makes the most of what modern nerdcore is considered to be. Through this definition, pretty much any fan songs can be included, including songs officially recognized by the media they're talking about. Alongside that, songs I mentioned earlier like the Vending Machine of Love can still qualify as nerdcore due to the dedication to the amount of fucking puns in it. As well, this means songs that are mentioned nerd topics but aren't about nerd topics don't have to ascribe to the nerdcore label. Still doesn't answer our wicked question, but that's not what this video is about, so I'll let you guys fight about that on your own. Here's the actual real question of this video, the crux of this entire thing. Is nerdcore authentic? It's a strange deal to talk about. Like, is a nerdcore song authentic if it gets acknowledged or accepted by the media it's talking about? Is it then real? But if it does get accepted, how do you measure that? The Living Tombstone FNAF songs were included in the movie, sure, but only in the credits. JT Music, DA Games, and Kyle Allen's music, Bentley's and the Ink Machine songs were included in the actual game, but in a remixed form. Subnautica included a lot of fan songs as in-game collectibles in the song's original authentic forms, but the songs weren't commissioned for the game like Vending Machine of Love was for OnlyCans, or the amount of songs made for Don't Fret, which is literally a game created by nerdcore artists. And obviously, the biggest problem with calling nerdcore authentic is the fact that, for a lot of modern nerdcore, it talks about the subject matter of video games as if the song's narrator is actually a character inside of the game. The artist isn't singing about playing a video game, they're sinning as if they're really being killed by Freddy Fazbear. And obviously Freddy Fazbear isn't real and cannot hurt you, so the artists aren't sinning about real experiences. Then again, we've already discussed how nerdcore is more defined by the passion behind it rather than the actual subject matter, so I think our earlier musings about nerdcore being acknowledged can be dismissed in favor of focusing on the qualities of the songs rather than its reactions. As such, writing nerdcore off as inauthentic for the sole reasons the experiences aren't real is also a misnomer, since many artists use nerdcore songs as a way to explore their own personal feelings through the lens of the media they're singing about. The best example of this I can think of is Wear the Mask by LongestSoloEver, which is a song about the character Gangle from The Amazing Digital Circus. For those who have missed this massive web series, the character Gangle wears a mask styled like typical theater tragedy and comedy masks. The masks reflect her emotions. Her comedy mask is often broken, reflecting her anxious and despairing personality. In one episode, she gets a new mask which has a permanent smile and forces her into what she literally describes to be a manic episode. Gangle struggles a lot with being her true self, and learns by the end of the episode that she doesn't need to force herself to be happy, as forcing emotions she doesn't feel causes more harm in the long run, and her friends like her whatever way she's feeling. Wear the Mask discusses Gangle's mini character arc throughout that episode, but the song is also a great representation of anyone who feels like they have to wear a mask for whatever reason. LongestSoloEver even said the song was written more about himself than Gangle as it's a struggle he related to. So there you guys fucking go, there's your authenticity. And that's not even mentioning the Stupendium's half a dozen songs about the horrors of capitalism, by the way. And this isn't shaming artists who write songs about being killed by Freddy Fazbear. Motherfucker, I love those songs. And honestly, I would even say that those songs are authentic too. They might not be authentic to the artist's real experiences, but for the most part, a lot of nerdcore is very well produced, and the people behind the writing know their stuff. They're authentic musicians, and it's authentic music, using authentic producing techniques and instruments. JT Music, for example, can break down all the different instrumentals and aspects of their songs and do so frequently on their channel. LongestSoloEver is literally a professional music producer. Sam Haft of the Living Tombstone literally now works for Amazon writing music for Hazbin Hotel. And say what you want about the show itself, but Loser Baby does get me every single time. I will defend that song with my life. Plus, nerdcore artists come up with a lot of banger lyrics, you have to admit that. Look at me and tell me these don't go so incredibly hard. Better than this shit! And all of this isn't even describing nerdcore artists who aren't trained musicians and are either just making this music for fun or because they want to get into mainstream music industry one day and are just starting out. Are those songs inauthentic just because they're amateurs and don't relate to the lyrics? They're still putting passion and effort into their music, and that passion and effort, of course, is authentic and real to them. But then again, some people will still claim it's not real music. It isn't on the radio or it doesn't have a record deal. But hey, buddy, come here for a second. When has that ever been a criteria? Are you going to exclude all the people posting their music on YouTube or Spotify or SoundCloud or public school bands or orchestras and shit like that just because they're not on the radio or have a record deal? Give me a fucking break. But on that note, is mainstream music even authentic? Like, it's on the radio, but that isn't what makes the music authentic, as I pointed out earlier. So trying to determine authenticity in nerdcore by comparing to mainstream music isn't going to work, because going back to the idea of real experience in music, there's no way to verify just by listening to a song if it's authentic to the artist's real experiences, even if it's a mainstream popular song with a record deal. However, as I talked about earlier, there's also a difference between the experiences and emotions of a song and how true one or the other is. Like, we know that in nerdcore, people aren't actually getting killed by Freddy Fazbear, but just because the experience is fictional doesn't mean the emotions of the song aren't. The experience is just a story instead, and plenty of mainstream songs tell fictional, inauthentic stories too. Like, Queen didn't kill anyone for Bohemian Rhapsody, the Beatles did not live in a yellow submarine, and Taylor Swift wasn't really Juliet since she never dated the Romeo that song was based on. There's literally the idea of the concept album, where all songs on the album are held together by a single narrative or theme, typically fictional in nature. Ever After by Mariana's Trench, How to Be a Human Being by Glass Animals, and the Normal album by Will Wood are also modern examples of concept albums which very obviously do not reflect the artist's true life experiences. Also, too, just think about it for a bit. Do you actually think all rappers are doing what they claim to be doing? There's no way bbno has Dick Real Deadly, Do a Little Damage, got like 20 children, Nick Cannon. Huh. Descriptive. And that's not even getting into the professional songwriting in modern music industries. While artists might come up with the original ideas for the songs and have some say in them, check their writing credits on most modern pop music. A lot of mainstream songs are written then shopped around to different artists until someone picks it up. And not just like a few relatively unknown songs off an artist's discography. Like, super popular songs that kind of define an artist's whole image. Umbrella by Rhianna was written with Britney Spears in mind, and Come and Get It by Selena Gomez was written for Rhianna. I think one of the most grievous examples of this is The Middle by Zedd, which had all of these artists attached to it at some point or another before she picked it up. This is even more true for music industries like K-pop, which, even if you enjoy the music, you have to admit is very manufactured. Like, the people in the industry themselves have admitted that it's very manufactured. This isn't even a criticism, it's just a fact. I'm also not going to say anything more about this. I feel like I've made some sort of faux pas. Though, even pointing out all these different examples, I really doubt anybody would agree that this music is inauthentic. Well, maybe some circles would agree on the K-pop and modern pop music stuff, but that's a whole separate issue. Still, nobody's going around saying Queen or the Beatles are inauthentic, and likely that's due to their presentation. Even if the artists didn't write the music or wrote it based on untrue experiences, it still might seem authentic to the artist. Like, Kesha's early albums were mostly high-energy pop songs that matched her party girl image. Her album art, music videos, concerts, and personal style all fit with the music she was putting out. However, obviously, Kesha has come out recently and explained how her producers and her record label really influenced her own personal image. Her music was inauthentic to herself, but authentic to her persona. Bohemian Rhapsody isn't a biographical story of Freddie Mercury killing a man in cold blood, but it's still a heavy rock ballad that fit with his image as a storytelling rock star. Yellow Submarine doesn't stand out as particularly odd among the Beatles' discography because it musically and lyrically fits with the rest of their songs. Is authenticity in music then determined by how authentic it appears to the audience, ignoring the artist's influence and personal experience? But no, that still doesn't feel right. That music is literally, by definition, inauthentic. It's not truthful to the artist's experiences and emotions. Then again, can authenticity be determined by the artist's talents? All the artists I've mentioned so far are able to sing or play instruments or perform well in front of an audience. They're authentic musicians, aren't they? They aren't faking their talents, just their songs. But that's not the same as being an authentic artist. You can have all the musical talent you want, but if people think you're a poser or an industry plant or something, they aren't going to listen to you. That's not even getting to the idea that a songwriter can write a song inauthentic to them, but authentic to the artist. Or the fact that artists are performers. They can put fake emotion into their voice when the song requires it, i.e., they can fake that emotion. Once again, this debate comes back to what people actually consider to be authentic. Is it the story behind the music, or the music itself? Though, to be fair, the music industry itself has never been authentic. Like, managers have been making artists take on personas for centuries. Like, for a very, very old example, Hetty Ledbetter, who went up by the stage name Leadbelly, was a folk singer that toured around the USA in the early 20th century, singing American folk songs and ballads. However, his image he portrayed as a guitar-strumming hillbilly was manufactured to match his songs by his managers John and Alan Lomax. The Lomaxes were a father-son duo that went around America to collect and record folk ballads, and they met Leadbelly while he was in prison. What he was in for does not matter. He toured with them when he was released, and they came up with his hillbilly image to match the folk music he played. Leadbelly wanted to present himself as more formal, wearing a full suit, to which the Lomaxes denied him, and after they split up, Leadbelly immediately started presenting himself in his preferred way. So, look at that. Pop stars have never been authentic to the personas they put out. But as I've pointed out many times already, authenticity cannot be measured by those metrics. An artist can be an authentic musician but use their music talents on a song they don't personally relate to. They can sing songs they wrote themselves or their record label bought off someone else. Or they could just be making shit up for the fun of it. Bohemian Rhapsody is a great song. I don't care that Freddie Mercury didn't actually kill a man. Authenticity is determined by the audience's perception of it. Maybe this comes down to songwriting, or the musical skill, or the artist's persona. Or maybe it's literally just based off vibes. Now, for some people, all of this still doesn't matter, because they only listen to true, authentic music, and they don't care about the rest of that mainstream or nerdcore noise. Well, newsflash, asshole! True authenticity has been unattainable this whole time! Even the most down-to-earth indie artists that portray themselves as authentic aren't authentic. This is the paradox of authenticity in the creative sphere. To create the image of authenticity is inherently inauthentic. You are manufacturing an image of authenticity. Your persona might be authentic to your music, and you might be authentic to your persona in that you're not actively faking any aspect of it, but you are not your persona. You cannot ever be truly 100% authentic to the image you portray to the public. Hell, this is true for practically every single creator out there. Like, I'm not being truly authentic right now. I'm being as authentic as I'm comfortable being, but if I was the most authentic, truthful, real version of myself right now, I wouldn't be that entertaining or eloquent. I write these scripts, but I still edit them to make them more coherent and have a logical flow, and I record the audio until I think I've landed a joke right. I include my bloopers sometimes, like I did at the beginning of this video, but only if it's funny. It's still my voice and my words, but if I was performing this whole video to a mirror knowing nobody would ever see me, it wouldn't be the same as the video you're seeing right now. Like, you think I look like this in real life? Just a floating PNG walking down the street? That'd be fucking crazy. So, authenticity in Nerdcore. The whole point of this video. Authenticity, as I've made a point of, cannot be measured objectively. Whatever way you try to define it will evidently exclude some song or genre or artist. It's determined then, almost exclusively by what the audience perceives it to be, whether that's the persona, or the songwriting, or their connection to being killed by Freddy Fazbear. However, in my personal opinion, most of the nitty-gritty details of it can be pushed aside in favor of one core question. Is the artist being authentic to their music and that they truly, genuinely care about it? Obviously, the answer to that for Nerdcore as a whole, of course the artists care about their music. They wouldn't be making it otherwise. Even joke songs like Jackie's Box by XTRATUNA had some thought put into it. Like, that song doesn't end and fake out a dozen fucking times before it actually ends. It takes skill and care to make a song this fucking crazy. So, there we go. Nerdcore is authentic. Most music is authentic as long as the artists care about the music they are making. And maybe I'm just being optimistic in a world where content farms keep churning out terrible shit just to get views, and AI music is slowly creeping into the industry, but sometimes it's just nice to see that people care so much about a video game, or a movie, or a show, or what have you, that inspires them to create something in turn. Except what the fuck is going on with this thing? Get that shit away from me.